Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the world famous podcast Beating the Press. As always, it's myself, Ty, and my wonderful co-host, Kristian. It's that time of the year where people are getting excited. It's the start of the season just approaching. You start to dream big for your team, but naturally, just before the season starts, well, probably till the end of August, you've got the drama of the transfer window. So, what do we think we'd do? We thought we'd jump on the bandwagon and do a podcast about transfers. But no, it's one we've had penciled in for a while. We know, obviously, it was in the back of we thought Euros finishes, and the next big thing would be the transfers, and we're going to have, by the looks of it, two of the biggest ongoing transfers, whichever way it works out with Harry Kane and Jack Grealish. But it was on before the Euros, and I think it's going to rumble on through right till the end of August. I don't think anyone can say with any confidence which way it's going to go. And we'll obviously talk about some of the other transfers as well, and some of the not so popular and famous ones, but equally as important to those clubs. So, how are you, Chris? I haven't spoken to you for a while.
Yeah, I'm good. I've actually really enjoyed the break from the football. Well, that's what I thought up until the point where I was watching the Women's Olympic Games at some point, which was actually really good. It was the England versus, was it Australia?
Australia. It was the one. It was Australia, right? It was the one that just lost when missed a penalty and then
missed the penalty, and then 90 seconds later the Australians scored. So I thought I wasn't missing football at all until that game came on. It was an absolutely amazing game. So whet my appetite again. So now it's got me right back in the mood for it all. Like you said, crazy season's begun, and it's actually begun like a lot later this year because obviously with the Euros and everything like that. Because I was thinking, it's been very quiet, but with obvious reasons, the Copa America, the Euros and stuff like that. So it will, like you say, it will push right down to the wire. And I thought that Man City, like they're usually quite proficient in the market, and I thought that they would have had this done maybe before the Euros. And now it seems to have rumbled into season, which is not helping anyone. You think of Nuno, he's coming into a new management position, and it's so difficult for him to plan when he doesn't know what's happening. And he just seems to be the middleman between a power struggle between Kane and what seems to be Levy at the moment. And so obviously, for those of you that don't know, today is actually Monday when we're filming this, and Harry Kane's not showed up to some COVID test, and I think they're due to start training tomorrow, but it was just like the preliminary COVID test in today, and he's not showing up. And listening to the likes of Fabrizio Romano, who's just actually got a YouTube channel. You should check him out. We'll probably put him in the description. Not that he needs it anyway. But he's stating that there's no apparent reason why the club's saying he should actually be there. So in reality, Kane's gone AWOL. But we know what it's like on Monday morning when you just don't want to show to work. Do you think it's something to do with that, or do you think it's a power struggle?
No, it's an interesting one. I mean, that was the question I was going to ask you, and it's been rumbled around social media and Twitter, and I think Rio Ferdinand and Jamie Carragher have got involved. So Harry Kane's not turned up, and the reaction from the rest of the country's not being toxic towards him. Whereas I think we can certainly pick players that if it was, for example, Paul Pogba or Raheem Sterling, can you imagine those would just spring to mind? If they didn't turn up, you'd get every single person and their dogs out and absolutely nailing them for saying, I can't believe they get paid all this money. This is completely out of, disrespectful to the team, to the club, to the players, to the fans. They're a role model. They've got to turn up. Every single reasoning and excuse and just absolute garbage that you can think of. Those two players, and there's others as well, but they'd be absolutely lambasted. And Harry Kane has had a really easy ride. Even Sky Sports News will put it up as England. It don't make a difference if he's the England captain. What he's done is not right. You've got to turn up. You're still contractors to them. I get it. You don't like Spurs. You don't want to be at Spurs because they're shit and you don't want to win anything. Them completely understand. But there's a way to do it. So the way he's gone about it, I'm not a fan. He's obviously mentioned it before the sort of season started that he wanted to leave. Even on Gary Neville's little YouTube channel, I can't remember what it's called. Overlap,
Yeah.
it's actually called Overlap. And he was there. He's like, yeah, I don't fancy being at Spurs anymore, we'll leave. Playing golf and saying it quite openly. I mean, can you imagine anyone else? The reaction he's got, he's had such an easy ride. I get he's unhappy, and I completely understand the reason why he's coming from, but just the way he's going about it just taking the piss. Not just that, I mean, I don't really care about Daniel Levy because I think he's a twat anyway, but he's taking the complete piss out of the club and just the general public and all the English fans. You know, I just think he's got an easy ride. What your thoughts? Or have I just gone over the top there?
No, you've absolutely nailed it. He like you said, Peter Odemwingie. He was the one that you think of the transfer deadline day where he hung outside of, I can't remember which club. It might be
West Brom. West Brom, I think.
It was something. It was something to do with that. And he was hanging out there and trying to force a move. And the amount of stick that he got for that. And I'm not saying Harry Kane's doing that, but he's on his way to doing that because Daniel Levy don't play about. And it's an understanding. Well, apparently it's an understanding that they've got some kind of gentleman's agreement.
Yeah.
Now that for me is absolutely ridiculous. If you're Harry Kane or you're Harry Kane's agent in particular, how can you base your argument upon a gentleman's agreement? He signed a contract till 2024. Now, there's no such thing as gentleman agreement in football, especially in contractual law. What it should have been was, okay, this is an agreement, but if a club comes in for, let's say, 100, 150 million, you always put some kind of a clause in there that will allow him to get out of there. Now, you can imagine that there's nothing in there of that nature.
Especially when Daniel Levy's involved as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you're sitting down, you're signing a new contract. You wanting all the benefits of that contract. You wanting a bumper pay rise for a year or two, whatever it was when he signed it. You are benefiting from that moment, and fair enough, you're giving your loyalty, and you are obviously understanding that I can leave when I want. But in reality, that's never how it works out. When you sign a contract, you have to expect that you're going to have to fulfill that contract to the max. And I just think he's going about it the wrong way. Obviously, Man City, it's on Man City to make the next move. It's only up to Man City. Kane has got no choice in this matter other than down in tools. They'll just put him on one side, which will never happen. But it's got to be up to Man City. And lastly, on that part, there's no other club in it at the moment. People are talking they're speculating that Chelsea might get involved at some point. But because there's no other club involved, Daniel Levy holds all the power.
Yeah, and the thing about Daniel Levy is, as much as whatever anyone thinks of him and opinions you've hold of him, he will always get the best deal for his club. Do you know what I mean? Sure. He is for the outsiders you might think he's tight, is this, is that, but he'll always you want him on your side. So he's obviously not he don't care if it's Harry Kane or Danny Rose, don't make who the player is. For him, he's going to get the best deal for the club. So, if it was Liverpool and we've got, I don't know, our star player, Salah saying he wants to leave, we'd be like, well, yeah, you can do, but until the buying club doesn't offer the price that we think is fair, you're not going to leave. So at the moment, I think Man City put 100, Spurs have got 120, 130, something. I might be wrong, but it's a lot more. So there's obviously got to be some sort of negotiation. Harry Kane should have just turn up and do your deeds and know full well, get Man City, get your agent to say, Man City, right, this is where we're at. It needs to be done before the end of the season. I mean, the first game of the season is Man City against Spurs as well. I saw that yesterday, so I'm like, I can imagine if that goes through before, there'll be a clause in the contract to say he can't play the first game. Can you imagine Kane playing against Spurs? Hat-trick, thanks. But yeah, no, I think there's obviously Man City have got to pay what they need to pay. And then the sideshow, it's not even really a sideshow. The link to that is Jack Grealish. You're going to be getting £200 million plus players in positions they don't really need. You've got them two. I mean, you can say, oh yeah, well they've lost Aguero and Harry Kane, but he didn't play with the centre forward all last season. He doesn't. It's not like they need him. How many forward players have they got that can play in the front three position? I mean, top man, you got Ferran Torres, Mahrez, Sterling, Foden, Bernardo Silva. You know what I mean? That's five. And you're going to get another one. So then you're going to have to get rid of some as well. And I'm just thinking, if Grealish comes in, obviously play more than likely play on the left hand side, and it's like, well, Sterling's not going to sit on the bench, and then there's only so many clubs that can have Sterling. So there's like there's going to be a domino effect as well. But there's nothing. You don't hear anything from Man City or in the rumour mill that X player or Y player is going to be looking to move on or is being touted to another club. So I'm really interested to see how it pans out. I think the Jack Grealish one's a bit better because it seems to be an understanding 100 million happy days, both parties happy with it, and it's just a case of agreeing to terms, which I can't imagine that'd be too much of an issue. But the Harry Kane will just try to go on, Chris.
Yeah, sorry. The Harry Kane one. When we think of you were investing over £100 million on a player, you generally think you're going to be getting a younger player, someone with maybe a resale value. You're going to get maybe 5-6 years out of them. They're going to be signing like say 5-6 year agreement. Harry Kane goes in there as a 29-year-old. Does he get a 5 or 6 year agreement? I can't see that. I think it's going to be more like along the lines of a 3 and a 4. And for me, that's why the figures just don't work out. I think City are looking more along the lines of 90 to 100, just so they can justify those 3-4 years. Because, like I say, they're not going to put him on a 6 year contract like Tottenham did.
Yeah, I mean, Harry Kane. The reason why he does not want to leave the Premier League is he wants the Premier League all-time goal scoring record. He says in the Premier League, he gets it, he wins it, and he'll go down in history. And then no one's going to break it. I can't see it. You've got to literally be there from 18 to 35 or something, and then be shit at scoring goals as well. So there's a lot of things, and be injury-free and all that. So there's a lot of things that have got to work in your favour for you to break that record. So that's the reason why he's staying. They obviously want to win trophies as well. Now, we're talking in terms of numbers and how much it costs. It doesn't make a difference to Man City. I mean, they take the piss with FFP, financial fair play. Come on, how do you justify paying £200 million for 2 players like in the middle of a pandemic? Like what? You know what I mean? It just doesn't add up, and no one's even batting an eye up. Oh, it's exciting. We've got 2. Sky Sports News with the yellow tick at the bottom banging on about breaking news. We've got 2. It just doesn't add up. So the money's not going to be an issue. You get fans talking about stuff because fans just want to talk about it. Like, oh, this guy's not valued. It's irrelevant. Fans have got no input in it. Clubs don't take it into account because John 78436 on Twitter thinks, oh, that's too much. You know what I mean? So they're never going to think like that. But I do think the length of the contract and how long you want Harry Kane for is an interesting point. And I think the contract. I do believe though, if they agree that if the clubs agree the fee, the personal terms and the contract length will be fixed easily. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. I think the contract length won't be an issue for Harry Kane. It'll be more for Man City. So if you sign him for you'll give him 4 years just because you spent 100 million. You know what I mean? If you sign him for 3 years, after 2 years, you're worrying, he's only got a year left on his contract. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he's not a Cristiano Ronaldo where Ronaldo went to Juve, whatever, and they're not worried about the resale because Ronaldo's just a brand within himself. Harry Kane's not at that level. I think the biggest obstacle will be both those clubs agreeing on a fee.
Yeah. Do you you touched on it briefly? Do you think he's a difference maker to City? Do you think he's a title winner? Like he potentially tips the balance in them winning the title?
Oh, they can win the title without him. I think they're getting him to win the Champions League. The Champions League's the one where, but again, it's fine margins. I don't think getting Harry Kane guarantees them or gives them, more of. I mean, it's Harry Kane is a class centre forward, but it's the way Man City play, and I think Kane will fit in there just to the simple fact he does drop in deep. And, obviously Guardiola likes his 9s to almost play like false 9s. Even though I'd call Kane more of like a 9.5. Like he's not, everyone spoke about it and, they've been analysed to death, dropping in deep creates a space for his wide attackers to drive in. And Man City are blessed with a gazillion wide attacking midfielders who are fast as fuck. So that space that he creates, they'll obviously go in there. The issue with it is when Man City play, they don't have that space in behind because teams defend so deep. So you want probably Harry Kane to be playing that much higher and up against the final line. Well, then there's an argument, he's such a good passer of the ball as well. So he is more than your 9, and obviously he's finishing, he's clinical and is an upgrade on Jesus. And I can see why he wants him because I think you get Kane, it gives you a much better chance. But you're up against two. I mean, Liverpool will be back this season. You know, they've got their players back. There'll be a massive hurdle for Man City. And then Chelsea, you don't know what Chelsea going to be like. You know, Tuchel's been brilliant for 4 or 5 months, but you know, it was almost like a honeymoon period. It's like, what do you do now? Do you kick on? Do you know what I mean? And what can you bring to the party? I mean, they were lucky just to get over the line for the Champions League qualification. I mean, obviously they won it, which helped, but I think they've just about got, you know, Leicester. If Leicester didn't crumble, they would have finished fourth. So it's going to be really interesting. You know, them two signing doesn't make Man City doesn't knock them even clear further, because I think last season was a very, I'm trying to think of the right word, not unfair. I don't think it was I don't think it was a realistic and a true reflection of the league. See, fans and pundits, they're all very short term, so they thought Man City brilliant, but it's not. There's a lot of teams that were without. I mean, especially Liverpool. You know, the biggest, they absolutely pissed the league the season before, then to have that much of a drop off, obviously because of the centre halves. But now, you know, they've gone in and they've bought more centre halves, and they've got the best two centre halves back as well. So I think there's a lot of change and stuff going around. But I think those two coming in will, the drama of the transfer. And again, I think the really big question is, will they fit in as well? Do you know what I mean? It's hard going into a different environment, different team. The Man City play completely different to the way both Grealish and, you know, Harry Kane. Grealish will be going in. He won't be a big fish in a small pond anymore. Do you know what I mean? He won't even be one of the best players. He's a class player, but you know, you're still playing second fiddle to Kevin De Bruyne. You know, so it's going to be it'll be really interesting.
And that's the strange thing. Like, you know, everyone's expecting them to go in and show the form of the Aston Villa and Tottenham, respectively. When in reality, they're just, you know, they're going into a whole new system, and not to mention we're now on the 2nd of August. Season is very close to starting. How are they meant to implement, adapt into the way of playing in that short space of time? I just don't see it happening. It's going to be a slow process of them bridging into the team, like I said, over the coming months. So it's definitely going to be interesting. The Grealish one, just moving to that quickly. That one, I'm like you. I do see more sense in that signing. However, like you said again, they're going to have to get rid of quite a lot of players in order to accommodate these two people effectively. Who do you see going out?
I mean, Torres doesn't play a lot. There was rumours of Bernardo Silva going now. I think Bernardo Silva is a really good player. I mean, I've never known any club in the world to buy a player for 100 million, and that player is not a guaranteed starter.
I think so.
It just absolutely fucking mind boggles. I'm like, you know, they don't even really need him. You know, it's not like they need him. But you know, in terms of who's going to go, I think Torres probably is going to be Sterling and Ford, and I can't see him going. And then you've got Riyad Mahrez as well, but I think Mahrez has been really good. So, you know, do you bring, you know, is Grealish a massive upgrade on Mahrez? I don't know. I think Mahrez's goals and numbers and performances in the Champions League were just top notch. You know, so
he's one of the players of the season.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it comes. You get that English tax, don't you, with your English players? So Jack Grealish comes in, suddenly he's 10% better because he's English. Do you know what I mean? And you sort of got Southgate in playing with the Euros. You know, it's not because if you're better than Sterling, you're playing that's it. But he's not. You know what I mean? And that's how Sterling sees it. Does Guardiola see it the same way? I don't know. I think it's a tough one who leaves. I think the obvious ones, like I said, I mean, Torres didn't play a lot. He played the false nine every now and again. Bernardo Silva potentially, but he can play in the midfield three. It's one of those players where it looks like they're going to get him, but I don't see, they don't need him. You know, it's not
Would you potentially see that this Harry Kane sign, let's say he moves to City and they get, let's say, 120 million, we'll go halfway. Do you see this as a Coutinho situation where Tottenham could potentially improve over this? You know, bringing in a couple of maybe. You could probably get a couple of semi on the way to being world-class players for 60 million a piece in this market.
Yeah, I mean, they've already got Gil, haven't they? The lad from Spain. Eric Lamella's gone the other way, and they've paid a bit to get him in, so that's good. They've obviously got, I think they're after Christian Romero from Atlanta centre half as well.
Yeah.
Toby Alderweireld's gone. So Nuno's obviously making his own mark and getting the players that he needs. I mean, they've still got some good players there. You know, Son's obviously committed. who's brilliant, top notch, one of the best in the league. So yeah, I absolutely think it could be, but again, it's I think they've got a good manager. I think they're further behind where Liverpool were when Coutinho left. On the point to sort of, obviously next couple of years we won the Champions League and the Premier League, but I think they're slightly behind that, and they're unlucky in that there's more teams far further advanced down the line than they are.
Good point.
It's a really tough one. I mean, you never know. Football's like, who would have thought that Liverpool would have won Champions League and all that, and they hadn't. Who would have thought? I mean, we're both Liverpool fans, and we know when Coutinho went, like, fuck's sake, what we'd have thought Suarez left. We thought that. You seem to think of the worst, but it's not. It's one player. The club's always bigger than the player, so I do think they'll be all right. It's just, do they have a replacement lined up? I know there was rumours of Raul Jimenez being, and I think Jimenez will be a class replacement, but how is he after his head injury? Do you know what I mean? You're sometimes not always the same player, so I think that was quite a big injury as well. It's a unique injury as well, because no one famous has had it before, so you don't know how they'd react. There's
also talk of Ings as well. Now Ings is a funny one, because I actually thought his injury record was quite abysmal, but over the last couple of years he actually played more than Harry Kane has.
Yeah,
I looked into the appearance, especially in the Premier League anyway. Obviously, not about as prolific, but still he's a number 9. Maybe that Nuno wants. He likes to play with your typical centre forward, and I just think that could be a good matchup. He's only 29, same as Harry Kane going out. It might not be the worst idea just to shot 20 million there. I don't know whether he'd get him for 20 million.
I think he's only got a season left as well, so that probably won't be far off.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Yeah, it's an interesting one, that. Seeing as we're talking about strikers, we'll move on to the next lot. Lukaku to Chelsea, and I'll throw Haaland in there as well. So both of those have been rumoured, and there's never any sort of smoke without fire, and I think there's something in both of those. I think Tuchel, and anyone who's watched football can realise Timo Werner cannot fucking score for shit. Anyone who watched him in the Euros, wow, he just does not fill you with any confidence at all. So Chelsea have thought, we need a centre forward. So Lukaku and Haaland. Thoughts?
My thoughts are, where is all this money coming from? Where is all this money coming from? Where I obviously know
oil and Russia.
I obviously know the answer from Man City and Chelsea, but I'm like, FIFA fair play. Where are you? Like, seriously, where are you? Like, this is ridiculous. You might well add Mbappe on there as well. I just I don't understand it. Haaland, he's got to be, if he goes this year, he's got to be on 200 million. But obviously, if he goes next year, I think it's a release clause. He might have about 60 million, something like
70 million in it next year. So yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just going to be a race. It's going to be who can offer me the most money. I think I don't like. Where is the Kane thing? I think that would go through this year. I can't see the Haaland thing going through this season. I do think Chelsea would be favourites coming next year. It's just that I think of the agent more than the player than himself. That Mino Raiola, he's all like we said about Daniel Levy getting the best for his club. He's the best at getting for his players, and I can honestly see him coming as the first £1 million a week player next season. And it's not even a big shout. I was going to say a big shout. It's not a big shout because we're so close to it as it is, and I just can't see it. But yeah, he would be amazing for Chelsea. I do think that is a difference maker. Like, maybe not initially, maybe, the bedding period, but once he kicks on, he is the type that would change you from potentially to maybe favourites. That's how big an impact he could have. The other one, who was the other one you mentioned? Lukaku. Yeah, how could I forget Lukaku? He's one that went away, with a bit of unfair stick, I would say. He couldn't trap a ball when he left here, but he still had that raw ability, the strength. He still had speed. He was still unplayable at times. He reminded me of Drogba when he first arrived. Like, Drogba, when he first arrived, he was good, but he weren't great. But he's had time away now, and his touch has got a little bit better. His all-around game, in reality, has improved quite a lot, to the point where if I would be happy as a Liverpool fan. He wouldn't fit our style still he's a world-class, verging on world-class striker. What about yourself? What are you thinking on that?
I mean, Haaland, I think there's no debate. We've spoken about it before. The two that are going to be the best two forwards in the world are going to be Mbappe and Haaland, as Messi and Ronaldo sort of retire and finish. I think the bit about 70 million next year. How much do Dortmund take? 100 million this year. You just I'd be like, yes, I'll have some of that. You know what I mean? I think any club that has any money. That can, I'm sure this is me saying it in a podcast. I'd imagine they've got a recruitment team. All these big clubs know exactly what the deal is and how much it costs to get him. I'd be pushing everything I could just to get him in before the sort of. It's going to be a rat race in it next season. Do you know what I mean? When you get there, whoever gets there, who can get him, who can pay him the most. They'll be trying to buy his mum and dad, mansions and all that shit. I don't even think that'll work. But yeah, the £1 million a week player. It's bonkers, but I don't think you're far off at all. They're on. You get, Messi and Ronaldo on $500,000 a week. Do you know what I mean? So the contract that he's going to get will be astronomical, just simply because he's that young as well. We were talking about Kane. Whether he gets a 5 or 6, I think he'd be smashing a 10-year contract now for Haaland, won't you? Get him nailed down. If anybody wants to buy him, he's going to cost $500 million. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the sort of thing. That's the sort of money you're talking about. Him and Mbappe. And Mbappe's another one who's talking about leaving and not being happy. And so I think these next couple. I think this summer's obviously for England and in the Premier League around Kane and Grealish. But I think as we move over the next couple of years, the big players, there'll be some huge transfers, and so the big boys will be out, with the checkbooks trying to get them over the line.
I think this could be potentially massively damaging on the transfer market. We think of Neymar, when Neymar went through for around about 200 million.
Yeah.
It just spiraled everything out of control. Now, you take in consideration the last couple of years, the effects that COVID could potentially have in the future on the attendances. And I know it doesn't make a difference in relation to the grand scheme of things, but it's just overinflation. We've gone crazy when Alan Shearer signed I think it was a 40 grand a week deal at Newcastle originally. Michael Owen, those type of things, and now it's just getting beyond ridiculous to the point where the gap between the lower levels for the elite is ridiculous, and we're almost at potentially what Super League we're trying to create, where it's just the likes of Man City and Chelsea that can't afford it, like Liverpool. We were champions of Europe, champions of the world, champions of England just a season ago, and what can we scrape together?
The thing is, we talk about that. You talk about Liverpool. Man United obviously bought Jadon Sancho, and they can spend money whenever they want. I think Liverpool, you see,
I can justify United. I can get away with United. I can understand United.
Yeah, they've got. To be fair, they bought Sancho and they bought Varane. See, Varane, I think for the price is an unbelievable deal. And I think Sancho's probably on the limit, but again, it's you wanted him, bang, you've got him. Now those clubs can go and get it, and I think Liverpool are in a position, and I think Jurgen Klopp must be looking over slightly enviously, thinking, fuck me, I wish I could spend 100 million without having to sell all my fringe players so I can scrape 47 million together. Do you know what I mean? He's having to scrape, Shaqiri, Origi, Harry Wilson, Javier. Do you know all these players? He's having to get them just to. It's the business model that FSG came in, and that's what they said. They said we're not going to spend stuff we can't afford, which is fine. They've created one of the best teams in the world, so we can't be unhappy from our Christian Poulsen and Paul Konchesky days, you know what I mean? So let's just be careful. We can look, that it's great. They've got, oil-rich owners, who are billionaires and money's no issue to them. But we're obviously, one day they're going to leave, and then where's your club? Whereas, FSG leave, we're still going to be in a really good position. So the players and stuff we've got, absolutely fine. But then you must have a slightly envious, I think, tell you what, I'd like to buy a player without having to get rid of 3 shitters, you know what I mean? He's playing. Klopp is basically playing real life Football Manager every time, right? I've got this much budget there. How much can I squeeze on? Moving your slider across, How many players can I get? All right, yeah. So it's tough, but I think the fact that Van Dijk and Gomez are back, I think he's absolutely doesn't really care. He's like, you guys get what you want. I've got my boys back.
It is the old cliche, the new signings, but in reality they are like new signs. When they came on the other day, it was like, oh my god, they're actually back, and it just gives everybody a lift, and but just 100% more secure.
Of course, I mean, the fact we've got Ibrahima Konate as well in, do you know what I mean? So you've got him from like class player. So you've got Matip's fit as well now. So you've got 4 quality centre halves. You've got Nat Phillips as your 5th choice, who was our number 1. So I only had a shout for player of the season because he was that good. So now you've got your 4 main set centre halves, and now you're like, right, okay, we're okay now. Do you know what I mean?
I'm telling you what, I'm betting we're going to go a whole season without anyone getting injured. Matip's not going to get injured. No one's going to get injured.
I tell you what, if Matip doesn't get injured, then that's it. We're good. That's the omen. That's the sign. Right. Okay. Yeah. So thanks for we've got to the end of the podcast now. We just wanted a quick one. And I think this is semi-quick. It's just over half an hour. So as always, guys, we say, if you've got this far, click that like, subscribe button down at the bottom. We have done a few Euros podcasts, so if you want to sort of reminisce from 96 onwards, some really good content in there. We're not just saying it, it's just mates actually speaking.
We're getting good feedback, aren't we?
Yeah, we've had some really good feedback, and we've absolutely smashed over the 100 subscribers mark. So Chris can but to be fair, we had quite a few mates that were like, I didn't realise I'd subscribed. So so we've got a few subscribers, and we'll get some really good interaction as well with some of the comments. So please just join the BTP Army, get those comments in, and so we do look to reply to all the comments that you send, and even on Twitter as well. I know Callum, one of our listeners, was on about the transfers and stuff. So we said, we've got one, and this is the podcast. So hope you like it. But we do have a question of the day as well. And the question of the day, no surprise, linked to the transfer news of today. So question is, where do you draw the line when a player is trying to force a transfer through? So obviously we've seen Harry Kane, we've seen Odin Wingy in previous years when he drove to the training. I think that's a bit excessive. So that's the question. So as always, comment down at the bottom, let us know what you think, and we'll look to reply to them.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know also if our viewers actually think the Harry Kane transfer will actually go through, knowing how Daniel Levy operates. And that's the last thing I'll end it on. Just in one word, do you think Harry Kane will end up getting his move to Man City?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I think Daniel Levy is going to just absolutely dig his heels in.
Okay, so we're thinking that Harry Kane's going to stay for another lifetime.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to actually. Do you know what? I want to. You know what? I'm going to leave. I'm going to say I don't know. I think it's a really tricky one because I think the player wants it. I think if it was anyone else but Daniel Levy, I'd be like, yes, it happens. Yeah. But Daniel Levy is just like Joe Lewis, the guy who owns Spurs. He's not poor. He's got plenty of money behind him, and I don't think Daniel Levy is one of those that is so stubborn and he's a twat. So you don't want to be dealing with it. Whereas I think Man City might just get to the point. Do you know what? You're 150 million here. I'll just sell some more oil. Here you go.
Good stuff. So comments down below if you agree, disagree with Ty and his assumption at the end. But as always, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys. See you in the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.